angel came to him in it and asked him to read. The prophet replied, "I do not know how to read." The angel caught me forcefully and pressed me so hard that I could not bear it anymore. He then released me and asked me to read. And I replied, "I do not know how to read." Whereupon he caught me again and pressed me a second time until I could not bear it anymore. Then he released me and asked me again to read. But again I replied, "I do not know how to read." Or, "What shall I read?" Thereupon he caught me for the third time and pressed me and then released me and said, "Read, in the name of your Lord, who has created all that exists. He has created man from a clot. Read, and your Lord is most generous, up to that which he knew not." Then Muhammad returned with the inspiration, his neck muscles twitching with terror, till he entered upon Khadijah and said, "Cover me, cover me." They covered him till his fear was over. And then he said, "Oh Khadijah, what is wrong with me?" Then he told her everything that had happened and said, "I fear that something may happen to me." Khadijah said, "Never, but have the glad tidings, for by Allah, Allah will never disgrace you, as you keep good relations with your kin and kith. Speak the truth, help the poor and the destitute, serve your guests generously, and assist the deserving, calamity-afflicted ones." Khadijah then accompanied him to her cousin Waraqah bin Nawfal bin Asad bin Abdul Uzza, long name, who during the pre-Islamic period became a Christian and used to write the writing with Hebrew letters. He would write from the gospel in Hebrew as much as Allah wished him to write. He was an old man and had lost his weight. Khadijah said to Waraqah, "Listen to the story of your nephew, O my cousin." Waraqah said, "O my nephew, what have you seen?" Allah's apostle described whatever he had seen. Waraqah said, "This is the same one who keeps the secrets, Angel Gabriel, whom Allah has sent to Moses. I wish I were young and could live up to the time where your people would turn you out." Muhammad asked, "Will they drive me out?" Waraqah replied in the affirmative and said, "Anyone, man, who came with something similar to what you have brought was treated with hostility. And if I should remain alive till the day when you will be turned out, then I would support you strongly." But after a few days, Waraqah died, and the divine inspiration was also paused for a while. And the prophet became so sad, as we have heard, that he intended several times to throw himself from the tops of high mountains. And every time he went up to the top of a mountain in order to throw himself down, Gabriel would appear before him and say, "O Muhammad, you are indeed Allah's apostle in truth." Whereupon his heart will become quiet and he would calm down and would return home. And whenever the period of the calming of the inspiration used to become long, he would do as before. But when he used to reach the top of a mountain, Gabriel would appear before him and say to him what he had said before. There are a number of slight variations to the story, related by different people, describing Muhammad's visitation by a spirit, identifying himself as the angel Gabriel. These stories do not always agree with each other in perfect detail, but on the whole, a complete picture can be drawn of Muhammad's initial experience with the spirit and his reactions after. And that's what I just presented. From this encounter, Muslims believe that Allah, through the Archangel Gabriel, gave the collection of revelations to Muhammad that are now preferred as the Islamic scriptures.
All right, shalom, shalom, family. As always, at the 10-minute mark, we're going to say the Lord's Prayer. So bow with me. Say the Lord's Prayer. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, and thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us each day our daily bread. Forgive us our debts, forgive those who have debts against us, and lead us on a righteous path, and guard us from evil. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen, amen. Shalom, family. Shalom, shalom. Just, amen. Amen, family. Let me actually do something real fast. Gotta grab this thing. Yes. Right. All right. Close this. All right. So, family, just wanted to have a holy conversation today, and get back to prophecy. Start talking more on prophecy. That is what we are focusing on. A lot of people are now starting to talk a lot about prophecy. For example, with the vaccines that's going on, the viruses, and all this stuff. I just wanted to have a quick conversation on that, on why revelation is important, why we should talk about revelation, why we should read why I recommend reading Revelation at least once a week, at least once a week. As it's not that long of a read, like an hour, 2 hours long of reading, depending on how fast you read or if you play audio or something. In fact, I think audios are short, especially. How long is let's see, a Revelation. It's like, yeah, it's like an hour. So that's why I recommend reading Revelation because, at first reading, you may not understand it, but it's something definitely worth reading. You can see it only would take you an hour, 2 hours if taking breaks and everything. But I definitely recommend it because there's a lot of brothers that are starting to say things are looking like the mark of the beast, right? It's important to understand the sequence of Revelation. That's one of the biggest things. If we don't understand the sequence of Revelation, then everything will probably look like the mark of the beast. Everything will look like something. But we got to look at the details in the scriptures for certain things. If we look at the details, then we can understand what's happening. That's why we make notes for things. So, for example, this note, this is our vaccine note. We know that there is. I also have some updates. I'll go down on some things. We already went over this, but let's see where's those updates. So right here, just updates on some strands, some new strands and whatnot. We'll go down. So like right here, here's a few newer updates. These 4 right here, and it's just some more updates because it's important because I see more and more people saying what is the mark of the beast and what is not, and they're skipping a lot of things in the Bible. So it's just some things for us to stay updated with little things. So I just note certain things that are big. So I'm just gonna play a few of them, and then we're gonna talk a little bit about Revelation. So I'm just play some things with the vaccines, some updates that were going on leading up to something.
Well, so the first thing to know is that Moderna thinks its vaccine still works against these new variants. Now, it looked at 2 of them in particular. One, known as B117, which is associated with the UK, and one called B1351, which is associated with South Africa, and which shares some similarities with that P1 strain from Brazil you just mentioned.
So, just for some understanding, there is a UK strand that now they say is, what's the word I'm looking for? They say it's most relevant. It's most relevant in America right now. So that's what they say, that UK strand is the most relevant.
What Moderna found is that against B117, the vaccine appeared to produce the same level of neutralizing antibodies as against prior strains. Against B1351, they saw a 6-fold reduction. Now that's concerning, but they say the antibody levels are still high enough that they believe they'll be protective. Still, Moderna said it plans to test both a booster shot of its original vaccine and develop a new vaccine targeting the B1351 variant, out of what its CEO, Stefan Bancel, told us is an abundance of caution.
So this one's just This one's just pretty much talking about the effectiveness of the vaccine. I'm going to go to a different one. Let's go right here. So again, another one strand, the resistance of it.
During the pandemic, a new strain of the coronavirus in the U.S. could be partially resistant to existing vaccines. Two people in South Carolina tested positive for the variant, which was first discovered in South Africa. That makes 29 states where new strains of the virus have been detected. The vaccines do appear to work on the variants initially found in the U.K. and Brazil. Mola Lenghi joins us from a vaccine site in New York. Mola, good morning.
Well, good morning, Anthony. Sites like this one, vaccination sites, have recently reopened after the federal government started increasing the number of doses it sends to states. But supply is still a concern, and the rollout is still going slower than many people had hoped. The need to vaccinate as many Americans as possible.
Now, the reason why we're talking about this is because this obviously was in the beginning of the year, but now they're talking about, this was yesterday, but now it's about 11 days. Yesterday they were saying it was 12 days left, and then everyone will have a vaccine, right? A lot of people are talking about that because one of the things, if you think about it, a lot of people are saying it's the mark of the beast, right? They say everyone will have the vaccine. In fact, you're seeing certain things like what's that thing? I forgot what you describe it, but on passports, there's a request on some places that people have to have a proof that they were vaccinated in order to travel and do certain things. So this is why it's important to take notes of the advancement of some of these things, what leads up to them. Because if you don't keep watching, all of a sudden, boom, you got some chaotic gossip going on that can cause a lot of confusion. Let's go to a different one, because it just talks about the resistance and everything. I think it just goes on and talks a little bit about that.
So preliminary findings suggest they may offer reduced protection against the variant originally detected in South Africa. But the work to understand these new strains and their interactions with existing treatments is well underway. Earlier this month, we visited Dr. Dan Baruch, the director of the...
So just for some understanding on what they're talking about medically, this is very important, right? All the what they call RNA vaccines, these actually use this outer spike, and they're talking about basically the mutation is always in this spike. This spike is not in the spike right here, inside here, my bad. Not the spike. That's the thing. The mutation is not in the spike. But this is what they use to try to fight the virus. They use this in the vaccine that creates RNAs in your own body. It basically reads this spike, which this is not the virus. This is a piece of the virus that mutates. And here is the virus that's actually mutating. But the problem is, if they get a variant that mutates the spike, then this will fail. This will be the whole system of this RNA system would collapse, because then they would have to basically make a new vaccine, because if this spike mutates, then it basically, this design won't work. It won't work at all. The spike mutates. That's what the problem is. They're worried about the spike mutating, and that's why you'll see a lot of people. They're talking a lot about people are forcing people to take it, and I'll talk about that too. We'll talk about why a lot of people are doing things like that, which looks like the market. Let's keep going. Let's go to a different one. I think this was
We do want to get right to our top story this morning. It is the latest on the coronavirus emergency and the news that the first cases of a more contagious variant have been detected now right here in the U.S. And that is raising concerns about another possible surge, and it is adding to this urgency that people get vaccinated.
More than 48 million doses have been distributed. More than 21 million Americans have received at least one dose. We're going to be joined live by CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky in just a moment. First, Whit Johnson is at a vaccination site. Good morning, Whit.
George, good morning to you. Here in Queens, one of the hardest hit areas in New York, they are desperately trying to speed up the vaccine rollout with mass vaccination sites like this one behind me. Take a look from above at a drone camera. You can see efforts just getting underway here today, but the problem remains supply amid new fears of that South African variant now landing in the U.S. This morning, promising news from Johnson & Johnson, releasing their Phase 3 vaccine trial data, saying their single-shot vaccine is very effective against COVID-19.
This is probably the single most exciting result in our entire clinical study, that we have 85% protection against severe COVID, irrespective of where in the world you're talking about and what kind of variant you're talking about. Even if you were to contract COVID on this vaccine, you have a much milder course.
The announcement follows an alarming discovery. Officials confirming the first cases of that highly contagious South African variant detected in the U.S. 2 cases appearing in South Carolina in different parts of the state. Neither person has a history of travel and no connection between the two.
The South African variant is quite concerning. It has spread relatively widely now. I believe it's in more than 20 different countries.
The CDC urging Americans to avoid travel. President Biden adding South Africa to the list of countries banned from traveling to the U.S., a ban that won't take effect until Saturday.
Well, obviously, you see, this is going to be early in the year. Let's go to a different one. Let's go to this last one right here. All right.
Health experts say the country is seeing a fourth wave of COVID-19 infections.
So notice what he's saying here, a fourth wave. So it's been 1, 2, 3, now a fourth one.
If it's not very noticeable just yet.
So there has been a 20% increase in cases over the last 2 weeks. Melanie's joining us now. Mel, health experts are describing one COVID-19 variant as a real game changer. So one epidemiologist says kids play a major role in transmitting this one, Jen. That's very different from that original strain of COVID-19, which we know was not prevalent among children.
And please understand,
now, this is where it's going to be important to make sure you understand what's going on here. Remember what strand they just said, that B11 such and such? That's that UK strand, right? That's going to be that UK strand, as there's different strands. But this strand, for the sake of understanding, it's important to know that this one they're talking about now affects kids. So let's see a little bit of
B117 variant is a brand new ballgame.
B117 is the COVID-19 variant first identified in the UK. And epidemiologist Michael Osterholm is making the rounds to talk about one of the challenges of this variant.
It affects kids very readily. Unlike the previous strains of the virus, we didn't see children under 8th grade get infected often, or they were not frequently very ill. They didn't transmit to the rest of the community.
But he says now that's changed, pointing to Minnesota, where more than 740 schools have had cases of the UK variant. And in Michigan, where more and more young people are being hospitalized as cases rise. It's something medical experts in other countries called attention to nearly 2 months ago, when the British Medical Journal said there was emerging evidence from Israel and Italy that more young children are being infected with new variants of COVID-19. And now that it's happening here, Osterholm is questioning his own recommendation to send kids back for in-person learning.
Okay, so the reason why I'm showing you this is to show you that this is not going anywhere. It's just getting worse and worse, and it's different variants, different strands, and then we got a lot of people talking about the vaccine. Is the vaccine the mark of the beast? Well, let's remember, COVID, when COVID first came out, a lot of people were saying all types of rumors, right? I heard people say it was 5G. I heard people say this thing or that thing, and we had to test it and find out what it was, and we found out it was just a virus. Then we seen people try to say the mask was the mark of the beast, that putting on the mask was the mark of the beast, things like that. You can't buy or sell without a mask. Well, in certain places you couldn't buy and sell. But the thing about the mark of the beast is that if you don't wear it, if you don't put it on, you are going to be killed. Not just jailed or you can't come in here type thing, but actually killed, right? That's a little different than what we actually see today. Also, the vaccine itself, we got to be careful on what we say about the vaccine, because expected, many people will also say it's the mark of the beast. And what we got to understand is that there's been plenty of vaccines before. We had plenty of vaccines before. This is just another pandemic. But this pandemic, in comparison to many other pandemics, is spreading across the whole world, right? When it first hit, it was a super spreader. That's what made this, and what made it mutate is because all those different blood types and different bodies that it went in, causing it to have different mutations. Now, is the mutation to the point where it's more deadly? No. The mutation is just becoming more and more able to spread more quickly, which is very interesting in the mutation, just mutating to spread quicker. So it's very interesting how it's working like that. Now, the vaccine itself, what we got to understand about the vaccine is that there's one problem, one major problem about this whole thing. It's causing another system to rise. And that one is another one we need to talk about. Let's talk about that one real fast. In fact, let me go to my history and let's go to it there. Let's look at this. So this is what we got to talk about, because this is about to be a conversation that's going to be talked about a lot, right? This was about a week ago. Let's take a understand. Let's go.
Vaccine passports are coming. Someday soon, you may need to prove your COVID status to go to the pub, travel abroad, or even go to work. Governments hope these passes could be key to kickstarting the economy and restoring basic freedoms. But could this come at a cost to individuals?
Just real quick, I want you to hear what was just said. So what was said here? What were they talking about? There's now going to be a required passport to do many things like travel, do certain things. It may be even required from some stores, right? To see your medical approval saying that you have the vaccine. So this will be a great example for something that would seem like the mark of the beast. So, but let's understand what's said here. Let's see what's going on.
The weekend is underway in Tel Aviv in Israel. Restaurants here only recently reopened from lockdown, but COVID-19 feels like a distant memory.
Oh, and just for the sake of understanding, family, we gotta be careful not to guess anything. There's actually been a what's the word I'm looking for? The ingredients for the COVID vaccine is known. All the ingredients. It doesn't have any nanotechnology or anything like that. We have all the ingredients. In fact, they took the vaccine, basically what's the word I'm looking for? A private lab, and they basically broke down the whole vaccine of all the things that are in it. The major thing is actually that RNA. We know all the ingredients in it, but we also know that what it has and what it doesn't have. So just to understand that. The target isn't the vaccine. Rather, it looks like something that's going to come from it. That's going to be something that people are going to talk about. I highly doubt that people are going to say the vaccine is the mark. Rather, what will come of it is what they will call the mark. That's why what you're seeing here now, they're having a lot of people talk about a passport, right? A passport showing that you have been vaccinated.
Reason? The Green Pass, an app that lets you prove you've had the jab.
You know, as a chef, it's make me happy. Like, it's a huge joy. We feel like we see colors again.
Israel is winning.
Well, that's again too, family. The vaccine doesn't alter your DNA, but what it does alter is your RNA. Right now, we got to understand what's the difference between DNA and RNA. What is the difference between them? Because remember, we got to prove all things, hold fast that which is true. What is RNA? RNA is a little different. The whole cycle of that has to be understood and the details of how that works. Because it does alter your RNA, but it is not going to get to your foundational code, which is your DNA. And it couldn't alter your DNA anyways because you have two pairs of DNA. You actually have, for example, with DNA, just check it out sometimes. God has created your DNA with a, what's the word I'm looking for? Very reinforced. It's almost impossible for a man to just change your DNA, especially if you're alive, because you yourself, you have two copies of your DNA. So if something goes wrong, you have a backup copy. So they would have to alter both of those things, which would be extremely difficult, and they don't have the ability to do such things. But they can cause you to have different resistance of things, messing with the RNA and certain codes and certain things like that. But they can't like make you different. Like they can't transform you, right? They can't like change you to another creature. But let's proceed.
The global vaccination race. Most over 40s are now fully vaccinated. And if you've had both jabs, the Green Pass opens doors, giving you access to restaurants, hotels.
Amen. So it's not going to change your DNA. I wouldn't necessarily say it like that. That it's inserting a strand into your DNA. Rather, the system of how it works is not actually going into your DNA. For example, let me just click this. What it is doing is, because basically from inside your cell, you have the mRNA, and which is also from the mother's line, the mRNA, and you also have the DNA and different things like that. But it produces its own mRNA and different codes, proteins, and different things like that. But what they're doing is something a little different. And basically, let's actually look at that, because we got a whole little thing. Let's go and see that. Let's see if that's right here.
There's a lot of excitement right now around the record speed.
Let me actually, I don't think, let me say, this is it. Let me make sure, yes. So this is a summary of how it works and whatnot. So this is a summary of it.
But unlike typical vaccines, which introduce inactive or weakened forms of a virus, these will release genetic material called messenger RNA. So what exactly does this mRNA do? Well, in a regular cell of your body, you have DNA inside of the nucleus. And this DNA stores all the information and instructions important to the functioning of your cells, your body, and ultimately makes you, you. Inside your cell is machinery that reads through your DNA and transcribes it into mRNA, which then leaves the nucleus and goes into your cytoplasm. And it's here that the ribosomes in your cells read the RNA, and depending on the specific code, build a series of amino acids which fold in on themselves to make proteins, which keep you alive and functioning. This process is known as translation. In fact, it's this process that viruses take advantage of in the first place. They insert their own genetic information into you, and then your cell machinery unwittingly starts taking that information and building proteins to help create more viruses.
So back to the needle. The mRNA that is being injected into you from the vaccine also carries genetic instructions. But in this case, it's only coding for one small part of the virus, instead of the whole thing. You've probably seen SARS-CoV-2 represented in your cell.
Let's see if I can get to this one part where it just directly talks about it. Okay, right here.
Maybe mRNA quickly, so they needed to be packaged well. The ones being released now have the mRNA encased in lipid nanoparticles, which essentially protect the mRNA from.
So this is what's in the vaccine. It's like what you actually have here is basically a coating that dissolves once it's in you, and once the coating dissolves, this is what's going inside you, right? This is actually what you're seeing here. The whole compound of how that's made. Actually go down or up. This is the ingredients, right? You can look up each one of these ingredients individually. Also, it's important to know that there was a group that actually did a, let's see if I can find it. Let's see if I can find it. Okay. What is it called? Was it? Gotta find out what brand it was again. Was it Pfizer? I don't think it was Pfizer. I think it was. There's well, now three companies that's making it, but two at this time that were making the vaccines. But now there are three. Let's see if I can find the name. Yeah, there it is. This one. How you spell that? How you spell that company? That was A. Let's see if I can find it. I had to look where I found that. They pretty much talk about how Let's see. Maybe I'm typing too much details. Let's see. There's a new one. I have to find it, but there's a new one that talks about how they have. I gotta find the site too. There's a whole site with all the ingredients that these scientists basically released, and they were allowed to. I'll look on my history and see if I can find it, and we'll talk about that. But this is pretty much the ingredients. The ingredients in here are known. The ingredients in here are known, but this is actually from the virus itself. This is actually the RNA, and what it does. Let's see if it'll also show that how it works or whatnot. Maybe not this one. Let's actually go to here. RNA. Shouldn't be hard to find. I think this is it. Let's see. It's like a little summary. I'll go to this one.
How does an mRNA vaccine work? mRNA vaccines can be manufactured faster and more cost-effectively than conventional protein-based vaccines. But how do they work? To develop a coronavirus vaccine, researchers selected an mRNA that encodes the coronavirus spike protein. This protein helps the virus enter a human cell. First, the mRNA is prepared by in vitro transcription or chemical synthesis. Next, the mRNA is encapsulated with lipid nanoparticles. This layer protects the mRNA and raises a stronger immune response. The final vaccine formulation is injected into the skin or muscle. Once the mRNA enters the cell, it uses the cell's translation machinery to produce the viral spike protein.
The best way to understand this is that what they basically did was took a code, basically a code from this thing. That's what the mRNA is. That's what the RNA is. It is not a ingredient itself, or rather, it's like instructions. And then the body makes the ingredients, like the proteins and everything and whatnot. That's what happens after it gets the code. After it gets the code of those things. That's for another way to summarize this.
The spike protein triggers the body's immune response to produce antibodies and specialized T cells.
I think this one's more exact. This is the one I was looking for.
Vaccines prepare the immune system to the protein produced by the pathogen called an antigen. RNA vaccines are a new generation of vaccines. Instead of the antigen itself, RNA vaccines contain a messenger RNA, mRNA, that encodes for the antigen. Once inside the body's cells, the mRNA is translated into protein.
So you see where it's at? This is also where the mRNA is placed. So once the mRNA enters here, it's not in here where the DNA is, which is the double helix and everything, where you have a double copy of it. Rather, it actually enters the area which is called the nucleus, or pretty much the outer area, and that's going to be where the RNA is created.
The antigen.
Well, the information of the RNA takes into effect, and it makes those antibodies for the whole.
By the same process the cells use to make their own proteins. The antigen is then displayed on the cell surface where it is recognized by the immune system. From here, the sequence of events is similar to that of a conventional vaccine. Some RNA vaccines also contain additional mRNA coding for an enzyme, which, after being translated in host cells, can generate multiple copies of the antigen-encoding mRNA. This essentially amplifies the production of antigen from a small amount of vaccine, making the vaccine more effective. These are called self-amplifying RNA vaccines. RNA vaccines are easier and safer to produce than conventional vaccines. This is because mRNA molecules can be synthesized in a cell-free system using a DNA template with a sequence of the pathogen. While
so it just talks about pretty much some of those things. Is a really great one to find the RNA vaccine, how it works. This specific one is fine. It goes into some detail onto those things directly. It's not really a hidden thing. This is not a mystery. It was actually used as a, what's the word I'm looking for? To make money. They actually wanted to make money. They was actually doing this a long time ago, but now it comes to an effect where they can now make money from it. So it comes into a massive scale. So they're actually now, making money on this. But this was actually a project that they were trying to do a long time ago. And I forgot exactly what it was for, but it wasn't by like the government or nothing. It was just actually a business just doing tests and whatnot. And so this is actually, like, remember when this came out, when they was actually bringing this to people, it wasn't yet FDA approved. It wasn't approved. It was more like it was testing it out to see how it would work. So it was all testing, to be honest with you. Even now, people are being tested pretty much. As you see, there's other problems going on with the vaccine, as some people are getting blood clots and different things like that. In fact, let's see if I can find that video too. Let's see if I can. Let's see. Right here. This is kind of one that talks a little bit about some problems that were going on with it.
With breaking developments, Germany is the latest to join a growing number of countries to suspend the rollout of the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine over safety fears. Bulgaria, Denmark, Ireland, the Netherlands, Norway, and Iceland have stopped giving the shots following reports of an increased risk of blood clots. But AstraZeneca and the World Health Organization insist there's no risk. The move comes after a leading German lawmaker called on the authorities to issue clear guidance on whether the vaccine is, quote, good or bad.
So you see how they're still trying to figure out if it's good or bad, because this is the first time they ever brought anything like this out. That's why we have to talk about this, because all of this is causing almost like a domino effect. There's like a domino effect going on, and it's not just it wasn't just COVID. It wasn't just the mask. It wasn't just the vaccine. Now we're seeing something else happen. We're seeing now is this passport the mark of the beast? Like it says, we got to prove all things, hold fast to that which is true. So that's why I want you to see this. I want you to see this 10-minute video, because I want you to, what's the word I'm looking for? With knowledge, make a decision on it. Let's see a little.
And gyms.
I saw that the young people that it was for them the incentive to do it. They wanted to come back to life, actually. More than a paper, green paper, just come back to life.
The Green Pass might be new, but vaccine passports are not. Travellers to regions with yellow fever already need to carry a vaccination certificate.
So note that that's actually that was really fast, but that's very important to note. A vaccine, the rollout of vaccine passports is not new, right?
And children attending public school in America must be vaccinated for several diseases. But governments are now paying keen attention to schemes like the Green Pass.
EU leaders have agreed to develop a COVID-19 vaccine.
They used vaccine passports
To see if they could be key to lifting lockdowns. But how well would they actually work? Vaccine passports might not be that effective for two reasons. First, although vaccines prevent serious illness, it's not yet clear how effectively they stop the spread of COVID-19, particularly for new variants. So vaccinated people could potentially still pass COVID on to others.
Yes, I agree, family. It's actually been proven that some vaccines did indeed have fetus cells in it. That is true. Yes, but the COVID vaccine is not one of them that uses RNA. But yes, there was indeed other vaccines that were using basically cells of dead babies.
Second, vaccine passports are only useful for a very limited window domestically.
They're not very useful early on because there's not many people who would benefit, and they're not very useful late on either because vaccines work in two ways. They work by protecting you by priming your immune system so that if you meet an infection, you're ready to fight it off. But they also work by making sure that you mostly won't meet infection because other people around you are vaccinated too.
If, as in Israel, most people have been vaccinated, then the chances of meeting an infected person are low, so a vaccine passport adds little additional protection. However, in places that are taking longer to vaccinate, like the EU, these passports could be useful for much longer to help reopen the economy. But could COVID passports create inequality?
So
Most
here's a topic that we need to understand. Does it create inequality to the point where it becomes like the mark of the beast, like where they say you cannot enter such and such if you don't have that? But remember, the most important thing about the mark of the beast is that it says people will be killed. In fact, the term there is actually going to be used as being beheaded, to actually be removed as in itself. Actually go to, let's see if I can grab that scripture. Let's actually go to that scripture. Let's go to Revelation 20 and 4. Go to Revelation 20 and 4. And let's take a look at that one, because this one's a little more detailed. Right? Let's go down. Just look at this. Just gonna click one of these or pick one of these. Let's just read one of these. Okay. And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded, right, for the witness of Jesus and for the word of God, which they, and it says, why were they beheaded? And which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark on their foreheads or in their hands. And they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. Now, notice that it said they were beheaded. Now, that's very detailed. It doesn't just say that they were killed. It doesn't just say they were martyred. It actually, word for word, tells us, if we look in the interlinear, we can actually go to there, and it says, though of those having been beheaded. Now let's look at that word there for beheaded, right? Is actually truly to cut off with an axe, to behead. That actually is in a reference. This is the only time we see that, but this is actually one of those things that we have to understand, that this will truly be in the sense that someone will be killed, in the sense of understanding. They will actually be killed for this thing. That's actually what would happen here. So that's what the important thing to know about this. Only place we see it is actually going to be not just someone martyred or someone like put in jail or something like that. It's actually going to be they're going to be killed. So this is going to be a very serious thing. The mark of the beast, when it comes, people are going to die if they don't do whatever is the requirement of it. So it's one of those things that obviously, when we understand it, we got to understand that that has to be with it. People have to actually have to die. They have to be beheaded for that thing, which highly doubt people will behead people for not having a basically almost like a flu virus vaccine.
Of vaccinating old people.
And then you'll hear some people say, oh, it's not the flu virus. But then look at the comparison of COVID and the flu, right? If you look at the comparison of COVID and the flu, then you're actually looking at something a little different. Like, for example, I had put here information on the flu, right? 1 billion cases worldwide, right? And then we see where you get 9.3 million in America, right? To 45 million cases in America. And notice how many people die every year, right? From the flu. 2,000. If we did a chart like how they did for COVID, we would have a lot of people. We would have a lot of people that died. But notice what we see right here. We see about 291,000 to a little over 500,000, right? 646,000 dying each year from the strand of the flu, right? Now, obviously, COVID is going to be, when you look at the death tolls, taking into consideration that this is all actually COVID, this is going to be a little of double. So if we're looking at it in a sense, if COVID is a 2%, then the flu will be a little less than 1%, right? So we're looking at something that's very similar. That's what we're looking at. That's actually what we're actually looking at here, is that something very, very similar, almost like there was just a double flu, for the sake of understanding. So that's what we're actually dealing with. And we look at it like that, then we're not looking at something very heavy, but we're looking at something that's being blown out of proportion. That's what actually is dangerous, when things are blown out of proportion. When they're blown out of proportion, the problem is not the virus or the vaccine, but the people. the people behind the things that are going to be set up. So that's what we have to pay attention to. What is it building up to?
First, and some think vaccine passports could risk creating a two-tiered society where vaccinated.
So okay, let's think about that. So two-tiered. So there's going to be one side who's not vaccinated, one side that is. So, but let's continue. What will be even like risk and things like that?
Seniors can resume normal life, while the young are stuck inside, waiting for the jab.
So the vaccine passport is quite a temporary thing that maybe governments just use as one tool as they exit lockdown. If the government is quick and fair and transparent about it, I think that sort of issue of unfairness will seem reasonable. It's unfairness for a bigger fairness.
In Israel, relatively few under 16s have had the jab, so they can't go inside restaurants. But most.
So you can see in Israel, they already have certain requirements where if you don't have proof of this vaccine, you can't even go into restaurant.
To make this small sacrifice, or not eat out at all if it's too cold.
We got yesterday like 7 guests. That one of them was like 16 years old, and it was pretty cold outside. And they understand. They sat with the coat and all good. You know, we have to protect each other.
A bigger sticking point is jobs. Some businesses, from care homes to plumbing firms, have already said they'll require proof of vaccination from new employees.
We're just going to make it a requirement.
It's going to be important to protect customers and their members of staff.
This could make it harder for the unvaccinated to find work.
It's already the case that we require people in certain sensitive jobs, for example, in the armed forces or working in certain healthcare settings, to have all their vaccines. So I don't think it would be unreasonable or surprising that COVID got added to that list. What we would worry about is if this became just a requirement to do any job.
This would be especially problematic as some groups are much less likely to have had the jab than others. Across 39 states in America, the vaccination rate among white people is over twice as high as the rate for Hispanic people, and nearly twice as high as the rate for black people. This may be because black Americans are, on average, younger than whites, meaning they're further back in the vaccine queue. They're also less likely to trust the vaccine because of a long history of misuse of health data and bad vaccine programs.
Where I think you might worry about entrenching inequality in the longer term is if this sort of scheme becomes a power grab and ends up being something that allows health data to be used to govern access to public spaces and to workplaces.
But this could be avoided if COVID passports are a temporary measure and restricted to certain key professions. There are also concerns over freedom of choice. Back in Tel Aviv, you need proof of vaccination to access many aspects of normal life. And some people, like Mikhail, feel they had no choice but to have the jab.
I'm a healthy.
So I'm not gonna play it all for the sake of understanding. But what I want to do is I want to show you why this is important, why I'm showing you this. I'm just going to skip to the end, and I'm going to talk about something.
Help restart the global economy. And although developers are already overcoming concerns about privacy and security, their domestic success will depend on how well the vaccines themselves prevent transmission of COVID-19 and how quickly countries can reach herd immunity.
I'm Helen Joyce, Deputy Foreign
Okay, so what they want to do, now what we got to note here is that their goal is to make the system a little more safer. So we have to take that into consideration, because what we got to understand about the beast is that he himself is actually going to be, it's going to be important to note that he himself is going to be completely trying to get you to worship the Antichrist. The reason why I want to show you this is because there's going to be a lot of videos like this one. Let's just look at the title and you'll understand, right? Vaccine passports, mark of the beast, or the only way to normality. What is that? What is actually he's doing there? I forgot what the word that is in grammar class. They tell you a little bit about that. It's a what's that saying? Was it a red herring? I forgot what it is when you basically make two options and don't allow a third. This is actually what you basically do is say there's a third option. There's actually a third option, for the sake of understanding. It's not if this is the way to normality or just the mark of the beast, but rather this is just something that the people are doing and trying to see if that would do something. It's probably not the only way to normality. No, there's probably other better ways, but this is one of the ways that they're trying to make things normal. Now, is it a mark of the beast? By definition, no. But let's look at the ideas that are put forth. So this one shorter. So it says COVID-19 vaccines have rolled out across the world, but the uptake has been slow in many places. All right, so just talking about the ages of people. So among 20 and 40. Yeah, a lot of home care workers, up to 52%, which makes sense. Numbers are worrying, especially as plans locked down. So obviously, not everyone's vaccinated, and it's forcing. That's where you gotta pay attention here. I'm sure it's gonna be something used later on here. It's forcing governments around the world to consider introducing vaccine passports. Okay. Okay. So we just seen a little bit about the passport, a proof of vaccine to have access around the world. And remember, vaccines are not nothing new. Remember, they were doing it before. Vaccine passports. So it's not introducing vaccine passports, but it's bringing it to the function that is already in place of the vaccine passport. So it's not an introduction. A lot of people, they're going to see this and they're going to think this is something new. This never happened before, but this has happened with many different viruses. Could lead to people being denied access in public spaces. Yes. So a lot of these things are actually causing some public spaces to not allow people in. That's one thing that we can agree on, right? If they're not vaccinated. Let's keep going. Yep. That's true. That a lot of people without the vaccine may not be able to travel. That's hoping to boost their system with the promise of vaccine passports. Trying to boost immunity. Yeah. So I just talk about, some people obviously won't take the vaccine for medical reasons. Yep. Just talk about some possibilities that it could do. Talk about some of the unfairness that's possible to occur. None of it has happened yet. So where countries stand on vaccine passports. So it's saying Biden has a strategy, plans to introduce directive of multiple government agencies to as if it's linked to COVID shot certification. So it sounds like Biden has a plan. In that last part, real fast, what I read, that's that last thing. That's the last thing right here. It says COVID shots to international vaccination certificate. That basically means that he is in idea believing that he should also take place with the ability to travel. They need a passport approval saying they had the vaccine. So that's what he's actually saying here, that he agrees with that vaccine passport. Obviously, UK is going with it. UK is quick to make their own decisions because they still got the idea that they are a monarchy. All right, they think they have a king and a queen for the sake of understanding. So when they make rules, they go with it. So as soon as they make it, they don't do a vote, all that stuff. UK comes to be discuss the next step. Yeah. So obviously they're gonna pass it. Travel pass. I guess a lot of people are in agreement. A lot of different places. So it's like an app. Yeah, they say who is saying not to do it. No, I'm sure they will reveal it that it's not. There it is. It's not new. That's right. It's an abominable picture. Vaccine against yellow fever, exactly. And obviously, in the most defiled place. The most defiled place, it seems like. When children vaccine against number of disease. Yep. Even that's in America too, right? That's in America too, where you have to be vaccinated for certain things. Now, understand, right? This is where a lot of conversations come in, and we have talks and we talk about these things, and we have to understand that this is not going to be the mark of the beast, right? The reason why we have to understand it's not going to be the mark of the beast is because, one, it's not new. Two, no one's going to be killed for it, or haven't yet, in a sense, forced it as saying if they don't do this, they'll be killed, for the sake of understanding. We also got to understand that when we see certain like big things like this to say this is the mark of the beast, this is the mark of the beast, we got to understand, have the sequence of revelation come to pass, right? Has the sequence of events of revelation come to pass. That's what we have to understand. And one of the biggest events of revelation is the darkness that comes before the beast comes, which is in Revelation 9. So the darkness has to come before any of these ever take place, right? It's very important to understand that. So before all these things happen, there's going to be darkness on earth, and there's going to be such signs in the sky that the scripture says are going to cause people hearts to fail. So that's what's going to happen before all these things happen. It's not going to look normal. When the beast comes, it's not going to look normal. Things aren't going to be normal. It's going to be a lot of people afraid. As it says, they're fearful, the unbelieving, they won't make it. Because there's going to be things that's going to happen that they themselves won't be able to comprehend. That's what's actually happening. But that's what's going to happen. It's going to be things that are not, because we got to remember, our world is not the only world. Our world is not the only world. That's why the scripture said, it talks about the worlds, that there's also worlds that we can't see, spiritual realms that we cannot see. But it's important to understand that there's a time where these things will manifest. In fact, that's what's going to happen very, very soon. Very, very soon. So it's one of those things that we got to look at. This is one of those things we got to be careful with. So you may see a lot of this going on, but that's why I wanted to touch on this, because when it comes to the mark of the beast, we can't play any games. We gotta dig deep in it. And it's important if we look at these things early. If we look at these things early before it becomes too confusing, then we won't have much of a hard scramble through, right? So we know what COVID is. Right, we know COVID is a virus, right? In fact, I think I have that here, right? It's right here. We already looked at COVID. We know it actually is a virus. We've seen it under a microscope. We've seen it like right here. This is COVID under a microscope and everything. You can see it. So you can see those little hairs and whatnot on the outside and whatnot. So this is going to be COVID, for the sake of understanding. We've seen it under a microscope. We've seen what it looked like and whatnot. We have multiple different sources looking at it and everything. So we know that it's actually a virus. And it's not a new virus. We also have to know that it's of a family of viruses that were known before, that were previously more deadly too, more dangerous, for the sake of understanding. We also know that the mask is nothing, right? I don't think this is the one on the mask. Here it is. So we know the mask is nothing. We know the mask is not the mark of the beast. We know that's not going to be something that's going to cause any problems. Though we had, again, certain examples that were like that, right? Some places, no service, no mask, no service, right? You can't buy or sell, different things like that. But understand, we already know the mask wasn't the mark of the beast based on the understanding of those things. It's just basically we got to understand what we're going through, right? What time, why the mask, and why these things? Was there a good reason? Was it actually a respiratory virus? Yes, it was a respiratory virus. Now comes the vaccine, right? Because we know all three of these can't be the mark of the beast. The The COVID can't be the mark of the beast. The mask can't be the mark of the beast. The vaccine can't be the mark of the beast. And a passport can also be the mark of the beast. You see that there's 3 different pieces. There's a lot of different pieces that if someone was to say this is, and they have to say that is, and they have to say that is, and then there comes a problem, like a domino effect that is just taking in the next thing. It's kind of like what I call giving into the hype. When hype is when, especially when media, when the main thing is like, for example, that was a wicked thing that someone did. Not going to talk about it, but there was somebody that basically made a shoe and put blood in the shoe and put it upside down cross, and it was a satanic shoe, right? Everyone was talking about it. Every single person was talking about it. Well, what is the task of this world? They want publicity. They want publicity. They want attention. That's what they want. They want people to pay attention to them, whether it be good or bad, right? For example, I heard a saying that was said, obviously not in the scripture, but someone said a saying that said, the more haters you have, the better you grow. You grow with more haters because it's just numbers to them. Even their haters is an increase in their numbers to them. So they want attention. That's what they want. They want to get on your screen. They want to be in your sight. That's what they want. But my advice is to be simple towards evil, as the scripture says. You would rather you be simple towards evil. Cut off that. Once you find out something's evil, just cut it off. But in the same sense, understand what is misunderstood or misrepresented. For example, the understanding of what is this. Like, for example, there was plenty of viruses, plenty of vaccines before, but it's because more the media coverage of this one and the centering of this one is causing a lot of conversations to happen concerning this one. You're going to see a lot of people call it a big problem when it's actually nothing. It's actually nothing, but it becomes a bigger thing because of us, because of people. But in the same sense, we actually have to take note of it because this is a sign. These are indeed signs, because what makes this outbreak a little different than previous outbreaks is that this specific outbreak went across the whole world in 1 year, for the sake of understanding. So the more they kept track of it, it was spreading. And it's one of those things that if we pay attention, is not super deadly as its predecessors, right? Like I said, there's other families that had higher fatality rates, right? Fatality rates like SARS, 9%, and MARS, 40 to 50%. Can you imagine that? If something like that spread, like COVID, if these two merged together, we would have a deadly combination, right? COVID is just a super spreader. That's what makes COVID a little different. It spreads faster than any of these things. In fact, it may be one of the fastest spreading diseases we ever seen. It may be one of the fastest spreading diseases, maybe even faster than the cold. But it's a fast spreading disease, for the sake of understanding. But the fatality rate is not as the predecessors to it. As you can see, 50%, that means if 2 people get it, 1 person's about to die. So that's obviously going to be a bad thing on Mars, which is also COVID, right? But the new COVID, the COVID-19, basically from 2019, COVID-19, that's going to be what we're seeing today. So if we understand it like if we understand it and actually what we're seeing, that this is a medical problem, then we're actually dealing with a medical problem. We're not actually dealing with a spiritual problem, nor are we bowing to anyone when we deal with things medical. Nothing medical can destroy your salvation. Understand that. When I say nothing medical, obviously understand the concept of what I'm saying. Because you cannot get a sex change and think the Lord is not going to judge such things. But understand, anything medical in the sense of something that's supposed to help you, then we have to take it and understanding that these things are supposed to help you. Now, if something goes bad, then that's one thing. Like when I say something goes bad, like for example, let's say you get the shot and you get, what's the word I'm looking for? Blood clots. If that happens, then that's because it's a medical problem, not a spiritual problem. It's not going to take away your salvation or anything like that. But this is why, like it says, right? Prove all things and hold fast to that which is good. The vaccine, just for the sake of understanding, the virus itself is not the mark of the beast. The mask itself is not the mark of the beast. The vaccine is not the mark of the beast. Nor is going to be, if this thing is approved, basically the COVID passport. If they tell you have to get a COVID passport, which we don't have a note on that yet, because like I said, These are things we're just noting, we're just taking note of, but we will keep it in mind. We will keep these things in mind and keep it noted. So that's going to be definitely something we will do. So like I said, this thing will always be being updated. Maybe I'll put this in the description for the sake of understanding, just to get, to make it like that. Maybe I can't make it normal. If it's on a computer, I'll edit it later. Because on the computer, it just makes it. I don't like that video on the note. But this is why we note these things. So just for the sake of understanding, in summary, the passport that may be mandated, the passport, or like I said, it all depends. Some jobs may require it. Some stores may require it. And understand this. The reason why I'm telling you this, because remember I said this, and yet a few days, maybe 2 weeks, they're going to have, especially in America, a vaccine enough for everyone, right? They talk about that. I don't know if I'll be able to find that video real fast, but they talk about that they're going to have vaccines for everyone. Let's see, I can find it like this. Let's see if I can find it somehow. Okay. That's pretty much the topic there. Let's actually see that right here. This is what they were saying. You missed it. Where am I?
Tonight.
Okay. All right. So watch what he says here for a second.
Announcing that I will direct all states, tribes, and territories to make all adults, people 18 and over, eligible to be vaccinated no later than May 1. Let me say that again. All adult Americans will be eligible to get a vaccine no later than May 1. That's much earlier than expected. Let me be clear. That doesn't mean everyone's going to have that shot immediately, but it means you'll be able to get in line beginning May 1. Every adult will be eligible to get their shot. And to do this, we're going to go from 1 million shots a day that I promised in December, before I was sworn in, to beating our current pace of 2 million shots a day, outpacing the rest of the world. I promise I will do everything in my power. I will not relent until we beat this virus. But I need you, the American people. I need you. I need every American to do their part. And that's not hyperbole. I need you. I need you to get vaccinated.
I don't trust Biden at all. I would not trust Biden at all. If you take my opinion from it, I don't trust him. To be honest with you. Not trust Biden. But I'll tell you this. That's just an example. Like, you can see it. It's easy to look it up. Just understand. The reason why I'm telling you this is because it's happening, right? It's going to be one of those things that you may hear about. You may hear that this thing is happening, but now you know, right? Now we talked about it. We'll talk about it again when it starts obviously becoming a big issue, like that some things also become a big issue. So this is one of those things. So we just basically brought it out. We talked about it. Is it the mark of the beast? No, it is not the mark of the beast, for the sake of understanding. Yet, understand, keep watch. Still, continue to keep watch. But this is not the mark of the beast. If you was to get the vaccine, if you was to get that passport thing, then it will be your choice medically for those things. If you don't do that thing, is also understand this. Let me actually make sure you have this for your consciousness sake. You can deny it. Understand this. If you have a consciousness sake where you feel like you don't want to do that thing, you can actually deny it for religious purposes, lawfully. As I said, in America, I don't know how it is in other countries and stuff. If it gets down to that point, you can easily dismiss it. Let's see, where is that thing? It's like a saying. right here. Claim exemption by the Title VII. So by Title VII, if you feel religious on it, do that, right? Title VII is a way that you yourself, if you don't want to get the vaccine, is a way to not get the vaccine. Let's take understand. Need you to take this needle to your heart, please. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. But you know, that's one of those things. Like I said, it's probably a little more detailed on it on YouTube. It goes a little bit into it. It didn't really say because it just basically told you like how many days and whatnot. Yep, some countries won't be the case. That's right. So it's gonna be. It depends. So it might be a little struggles to try to justify it in other countries. Yes, on 12 days. Let's see. Let's see if I can just find it. Sometimes you gotta type it kind of detailed, kind of not. I'm not gonna look for it on YouTube, but it is on YouTube too. But you probably gotta type it a certain way. I don't know exactly how it's worded, but I'll just leave it like that. But yes, there also talk of U.S. There also talks in the U.S. Army. Yep, that's right. They might force a lot of people to get it. Not force as in require it, or you lose your job. Claiming that, or you won't get some this thing or that thing. Claiming that it will be mandatory if it's FDA approved. Oh yeah, well, that's one of the things. Like I said, we got to keep watch for it. Right now, if it's FDA approved, then we got to go off of what is it that how they're gonna force it, right? Because you gotta force. There gotta be a situation, like for example, like the passport. That's one thing. But can stores say we also need to see this thing, right? Can Walmart say we need to see such a thing, and that's the only way you come in? Now, like I said, it's important to remember that even if they did do that, just like the mask and just like other things, it's not going to kill you, right? It's not going to actually kill you to do those things, but it will be quite annoying, especially like putting the mask on. It's annoying to do that. See if I can find. I want to see if I can find this one video that I wanted to show you, but it's just a video that's just like I said, that one video just basically showed it how in 12 days, and yet 12 days, and this one on that one it looked like it's in May. But in 12 days, it says they're going to have vaccines for everyone. And that's going to be one of those things that is going to cause, some outrage. A lot of people, they're going to have outrage with those things or not. But just remember this, right? Remember what the scripture says, right? You can look at the bottom for the sake of understanding, right? We understand that the Lord himself, he seeks for us to have information and knowledge in these things, right? Let him that is taught in the word communicate to him that teaches in all good things like that. Just for the sake of understanding, that's why we prove all things and hold fast to that which is good. I'll just put this in the description afterwards. See which one this is. Yes, we'll talk about that too. So we're gonna have some holy conversation, fam. We're gonna talk about some things because I believe the time that we're in is super short. It's super short. But shalom, family. I got where you check the score. Oh, okay, let's see. Let me actually sign in then. I can. I don't know if I already signed up on Discord on here. Should. Let's see that. All right, there it is.
We're going to be able to do this. Everyone's going to be able to before the month is out.
Speeding up his own timeline.
Yeah. So this is you can see the date on there. This is a good update. This is on the 6th, right? So today is the 8th. Well, let's keep going.
Biden on Tuesday moved the target date for all adult Americans to be eligible for a vaccine to April 19th.
April 19th. So you see, not just May anymore. The May one was previous. That was an older one. This one's actually saying April 19th. This is the one I was talking about, actually 11 days. Well, obviously shorter than that. Gonna be like 9 days, about, well, 11 days.
Than the previous target. Biden toured a vaccination site in Alexandria, Virginia before making the announcement at the White House.
Beginning April 19th, every adult in every state, every adult in this country is eligible to get in line to get a COVID vaccination. What we do now is going to determine how many people will save or lose in the month of April and May and June before we get to July 4th.
Some states are moving even faster. In Hyde Park, New York on Tuesday, a group of high school students were among the first teenagers 16 and older to receive a vaccine, which was met with mixed emotions.
I was nervous coming into this and kind of like depressed because I couldn't go out in public. So now that I got the shot and done with, I feel fine and I'm ready to go out.
You don't know what's true, what's not true, who to trust. And I feel like at the end of the day, as long as you have some sort of protection against the deadly virus, it's all worth it in the end.
Despite the progress on vaccinations, cases in the Northeast have risen recently, and Michigan hit a record for new COVID-19 cases reported last week.
We are really in a race.
Top U.S. infectious disease expert Dr. Anthony Fauci
I guess these are 3 surges. I guess every surge was worse.
Tuesday told the National Press Club cases.
So there's a 4th one, obviously, 4th one going on from over here.
Nationwide, we're at a precarious plateau. Still, Dr. Fauci sounded an optimistic note.
When are you going to fly? When are you going to feel comfortable?
If I have to go someplace this summer, like with the family, I would not hesitate to do that. If in fact we continue to come down on the infections and more people get vaccinated.
I think you just calmed the nerves of half of America just now.
Well, good. I'm glad I was able to do that.
And remember, like I said,
of all the products in the world, you don't want to use market-based prioritization.
Like I said, I'm not going to go over this video, but you can look it up yourself. This vaccine thing is all about money. That's really what it's all about. The vaccines, all these systems that's going on, everyone's trying to jump on the bandwagon and make money. Of course, they're going to be all for passing it. There are going to be certain ones that are going to look like they're sheeps, but they're actually obviously lions or dragons in sheep clothing. And we'll just end it for the sake of understanding. This is just a money-making industry. That's what it is. Remember, the medical field is not always going to be your friend. What it's going to do is going to be enough to take care of you. It's not going to always give you the things that's going to make you at the best of what they can possibly do. The best that they can possibly do is make sure that they can set up a system where they can allow you to constantly keep in rotation to come to them, right? For the sake of understanding. So it's always important to understand that it's all about money. That's what it's really about. It's about money for the sake of understanding. And it's about money, power, and some secret goals that they have in their hearts. But what Yah's about to do, he's really going to fulfill a scripture that says, put them in fear and show them that they are but men. They are nothing but men, for the sake of understanding. So do I think that the vaccine or this pass, this what is it called, the green pass, basically the pass you need for going aboard and stuff like that to prove that you have the vaccine, do I think that that's the mark of the beast? No, that's not the mark of the beast. But the mark of the beast is at hand, and when that time comes, the beast himself will want you to bow to him, and people will be beheaded when that time comes. But indeed, I'm gonna close this. So that's why I wanted to talk on real fast, family, because I just wanted to talk on that because I think we should be careful on what is called the mark of the beast and what isn't. I just think we got to be careful with those things because I was seeing a video by a brother. He was talking about that it might be the mark of the beast. May know him, right? David Lynn, for the sake of understanding. Different brothers and sisters that also fall into what's the word I'm looking for? Hype. So you gotta be careful not to call everything the mark of the beast. We got to be careful with those things. But if anyone have any questions, let me know, and we'll touch on that for the sake of understanding. Or if you have any videos of your or anything on this about this situation or anything like that, definitely let me know, and we'll touch on those things. Because as always, we're keeping watch. As always, right? We never know what you'll find. You'll never know what you'll find. You may find something controversial, and we need to go over it. We need to examine it and prove it to see what we're actually looking at. So always make notes, save things, and that way when you get a chance, you can look back on them and see where it was leading to. What was it leading to? Let's take a understanding. As always, prove all things. Be careful, as there are some false information and whatnot. But you can find, especially in this time, we are in a time of information. Just be careful with what you find. So dissolve or dissect everything. Dissect everything. So with that, family, be blessed, be beloved, and amen.